Welcome, it's Michael Murray with Benzinga. I'm joined here today by Robert B. Price, the CEO of Total Helium. Robert, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us in the studio. How are you doing today?
Michael, thanks for having me on this Benzinga platform.
And it's a pleasure to have you here. We're excited to share more about you and the company and what you guys do with our audience. So let's kick it off there. Tell us about Total Helium and what it is that your company does.
Well, so we are primarily an exploration and production company. We recently acquired a significant asset in Arizona. They refer to this as the Saudi Arabia of helium. It has very high helium concentrations. And so we are, I think, the only publicly traded producer of helium. We're now selling helium as we speak, Michael.
Outstanding. Robert, before we delve into the specifics of this and what exactly the product lineup is and everything else, what is your background specifically? How did you end up running a company in the helium industry?
Yeah, so Michael, my background is I grew up in Denver, Colorado. After undergrad, I went to law school at University of Tulsa. My first job out of law school was to run a bank trust department. I was the vice president, trust officer, and oil and gas trust department manager. So I oversaw the various trusts in oil and gas. I did that for a while, and then I formed an oil and gas company and started drilling wells in the mid-continent. We are up in the Williston Basin. But Michael, my background is more diverse. I've owned a automotive supply company where we supplied all the Ford Motor Company's North American automotive glass. I was the chairman, majority interest owner. One of my more recent projects is we sold a plant to Tallgrass, which is backed by Blackstone. So it's been fairly diverse. Most of my companies have been privately owned, but now that's my general background, oil and gas exploration primarily, which is a nice entree into drilling for and producing helium.
Fantastic. Now, Robert, I'm sure there's multiple different answers to this question, but what exactly is helium used for?
Oh, gosh. It's been around a long time, Michael. Back in World War I, helium was used in balloons, and it was truly a strategic asset for the military to be able to send up balloons. But here recently, the medical industry, which is MRI machines, semiconductor manufacturing, the space program, and quantum computing. We're seeing the demand for helium go up, and we're seeing the supply choked right now.
We want to talk a little bit about the financial side of the company. Can you break into the cash flow, what you guys feel about the financial projections, where you guys stand from a business standpoint?
Yes. So what we did, Michael, is we acquired existing assets. So two of our wells are producing at 8% helium. And these wells have produced, one of them produced 250,000 MCF of gas, and it did it in a 3-year period. Now, we own a 20% working interest in that well, but to give your viewers some perspective on what these wells have produced in terms of dollars, 250,000 MCF times $500 an MCF, that's over $9 million from one well that at the cost of drilling it is only $220,000. And so they produce that. These are gross numbers, Michael. Doesn't take into account royalties and processing fees, but that is a very prolific well. So what we wanted to do is position our shareholders to have interest in currently producing assets. We start with those two wells, and we are now hooking up an additional 5 wells. And so we have a producing assets that's going to be generating significant revenue.
Understood. Now, your company just announced that it's entered into a joint venture in Arizona. What does that mean for Total Helium as a company? What can we expect to see coming up next year?
Yeah, well, first of all, one of our joint venture partners that has funded our exploration is Linde. That's spelled Linde. They're a $180 billion industrial gas company, Michael. So they funded part of our project, and they have invested with us for infrastructure expansion here in Arizona in the Holbrook Basin. Now, Total Helium owns 50% of 27,000 acres. We purchased producing assets, and our joint venture partner is the operator is Brad Butler.
Excellent. Now, Robert, what's so unique about this project in Arizona? Can you give us some of the details that really set us apart?
Well, so many other helium accumulations, Michael, they are associated with hydrocarbons, so natural gas, other liquids, propanes, and so forth, and oil. But it's less than 1% of the gas stream in these other basins. So you're dealing with a very small percentage of gas. Here in the Holbrook Basin, and they refer to the Holbrook Basin as the Saudi Arabia of helium because it's world-class helium concentrations. Where our producing wells are, we have between 5 and 8% helium. So you don't need the massive amount of quantity in order to make it a very highly profitable well.
Excellent. And Robert, a final question for you. How does this joint venture position Total Helium going forward? How do you see the future progressing for the company overall?
Yeah, so we're fortunate in that our operator has all the services we need. The Holbrook Basin, Michael, it's a shallow basin, so it wasn't deep enough to actually be cooked. And that's why this whole basin is void of hydrocarbons. So again, 5 to 8% helium, and the rest of the gas is nitrogen. And so there is a challenge in this basin getting service companies to come in and provide the services. So our joint venture partner, Brad Butler, he owns his own drilling rig, own cementing equipment, own trenching equipment. So we can really control our cash flow on how many wells we drill, how many wells we bring online, and we're not dependent on other service companies coming in from other producing basins, which is very expensive. So we're able to keep our costs down too.
Excellent. Robert, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today, learning more about Total Helium, the joint venture in Arizona, and the future direction of the company. We certainly look forward to watching this progress and talking with you again soon. Robert B. Price, CEO of Total Helium, thank you again for being with us.
Great. Thank you, Michael.